Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Juicy. We're doing our LSU Football 2024 Season Preview as we go through all the games and all the different players that we're going to be talking about here today. We did do position groups. So what you think, Juicy, about this 2024 LSU Football Tigers team?
I think they got real good potential. Obviously, we talked about it in a previous episode a little bit, like the offensive line. I think offensive line and linebacker core are the two anchors on each side of the ball. But and running back position, but Nussmeier's no scrub either. So, but I think this team's got a lot of potential. But we're gonna talk about it in depth and break down each game and give our prediction and see what happens.
Yeah, this is more of a kind of a thing of covering the schedule here, more about picking the games. And we did talk about the position groups. If you want more of a detailed breakdown, I would go look at that episode here rather than this one here, because you're going to get kind of more of a detail, like who you got on the roster and who you don't have on the roster, who the playmakers maybe on offense and defense as we look into this 2024 season here. So let's look at this here. I'm going to share a screen here real quick. So we're going to take all game by game and what we think is going to happen here. I am dealing with a little bit of an illness a little bit. I do have a little bit of a small sinus infection, but I'm going to try my best to get through this and power on. All right, so let's see here. All right, so Juicy, you see my screen?
I do.
Okay, so let me go pull back up Restream here. So look, number 13 LSU versus number 23 USC on Sunday, September 1st, which is kind of a little bit different because we're used to college football games being on Saturday, and now we have a Sunday matchup here. So what you think about this Vegas kickoff classic against USC here? This is a very, one of the more key matchups of week one for LSU. How you see that game going out against USC in the Big Ten this year?
I think it'll be more, it's kind of going to be, I think, a offensive game. That's very vague, I guess, to say, because a lot of football, even the professional side too, college is all really gone a lot more favors the offense to score a lot of points and so much less defensive games. But I see it being pretty close, at least through halftime, and I think LSU gets a better grip on it in the second half, and they kind of pull away a little bit. I think Nussmeier, kind of shakes off the start jitters. I think it's a good game for him to really kind of get thrown into that top 25 hype and game and experience, and in a game that really matters. A bowl game, we can't really say mattered that he played in. That wasn't really, we don't have a large sample size of them yet, but we're going to get a lot of them here in this game. But I think LSU will find a way to win this game. I think it'll be a fairly good margin to win. Though Vegas only has LSU a 6-point favorite right now.
So if we're looking at LSU and USC here, so the big thing is, will it be enough, right, for the defense? That's the group we're gonna have to look at here. Will they be able to make that next jump here? They didn't play well last year. The game against Ole Miss, that was a big one. The game against Alabama, that they didn't play well last year. And Matt House went back to the NFL, and that's one thing that are they going to make a jump with Brian Kelly with defense? Will they go back to more to 2022, or will they even surpass him? Is a good question. Harold Perkins Jr. was named a preseason All-American, and not everybody was pleased with that selection. I think if they put Perkins more back his natural position that he was this past year, I mean, in 2022, over 23, I think he'll have a obviously more success because it's more natural to him and it's in his wheelhouse to say. But I got LSU winning this game. Okay, so the last 2 years, LSU played Florida State in the opening game and they lost. They lost both those games here, and Florida State isn't very well. Mark Norvell they've been having great teams go through there, which I think was a shame that they didn't make the college football playoff last year. But they'll have their chance this year to showcase what they can do for sure. But I think Garrett Nussmeier, he's going to be a gunslinger. So gunslinging quarterbacks, they typically have a little bit more higher turnover risk with them because they're going to throw the ball in them tight windows and it's going to pay off and have big plays for LSU, and it's also going to cost LSU some big moments. But do you think that Brian Kelly and company is going to try to make him tone that down, or you think they're going to let him just gunsling it?
I think at first they'll kind of. I think that's why it's going to be close too. They'll kind of start him in the first half at least. They'll kind of start him off like they'll ease him into it, but then I think the second half they'll let him for sure later on in the game. They'll get some confidence in him and with him, and they'll just cut him loose.
Yeah, I think that you got to be safe with it a little bit just to kind of see what is going on. So that is something you're going to have to look at and be like, hey, look, we have these type of players on this team. They got to showcase what they can do. I mean, that they have to step up to the plate, and you're going to have to.
The bottom line, there's plenty of talent. Bottom line, they definitely have plenty of talent.
Yeah,
on both sides
LSU has talent. I think they should make the college football playoff this year. Now, I explained this in the Louisiana Raging Cajun season preview of how it worked that way, so people can understand because not everybody kind of understands how this works. That top 25 is not just the top 12 teams. They have auto bids in there. So the top four highest finishing conference, top five highest finishing conference champions.
It don't matter if they're 8-4 or 7-5 or 9-3.
Literally, we could have a situation where, let's say, for example, I know this is hypothetical, but hypotheticals are fun to always talk about. So let's say LSU, they somehow managed to make it to second. SEC be a bad example this year. I got to think of another league that doesn't really have. So let me use a G5 conference. Let's use the Sun Belt. Let's say the Cajuns are 8-4 or something 23rd, or they're barely in there, 9-3 or whatever.
They're only ranked.
They're defeated. They're just ranked 24. They're not taking the top 12 teams. They would have a spot in the playoff because they'd be the highest ranked G5 team. That's basically how that goes because they're in that fifth conference. That'd be the highest ranked out of the American Conference USA and MAC conferences in Mountain West and all the other G5 conferences. So they're going to get a spot at the table. Secondly, here you're going to have the ACC, which if they're ranked all the way down 11, they're still getting a spot of their champions in there. So they're going to be one of the top 4 seeds. That'll be top 5 seeds. So they will be those auto bids.
The G5 finally gets a spot at the table, which I'm happy with. So
it doesn't as long as they're ranked and stuff, and that's kind of. I mean, that's going to lead to a discussion later on that we're going to might have do an episode about, but. About they're not going to give them an easy road to G5 teams. They're definitely going to put them 12 seed or 5 seed to make them prove that they can hang
That's
with
all right, though. I just want them to have a chance.
So yeah, so a 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed is easily going to be, SEC, Big 10,
ACC, Big 12,
ACC probably, and it'll be one of those teams in there, and then it's going to have at large now. Your SEC champion could be ranked number 7 or 6, and the team, let's say they have a situation like Alabama and Georgia last year, where Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship and they made it in the playoff, and Georgia was the 5th ranked team. They could theoretically be, they'll probably be the 5th seed, basically, because how it works out, or if. Well, Georgia.
I think the SEC champion The SEC
Yeah.
runner-up will definitely probably get a at-large bid, though.
So yeah, that's basically what it is. I think LSU beats USC in this first game. I do think they'll turn it around. I think they'll start their season off. I'm hoping Brian Kelly's sake, because could you imagine having 3 straight years of a season opening loss? That would be not
It's
ideal.
been
I don't
typical
think
Brian Kelly MO, though. They start off rugged and rough, and then they get it together the later on in the year.
the trend is like basically it's technically shame on me because I picked LSU last year to beat Florida State. I thought they'd have redemption, but that was not a good pick on my end at the start of the year. I hate trying to
Well,
pick
Florida
against.
State definitely was really good last year, though.
Hey, it was a good team to lose to though last year though too. So LSU versus Nichols in Baton Rouge. LSU, that should be a cakewalk for LSU. They should win that game.
Yep, I
But
agree with you.
you shouldn't. They shouldn't have trouble with Nichols. It's a good tune-up game for you to get you ready for South Carolina, but don't overlook any team. You don't want to overlook any team because anybody can sneak up and grab you and beat you on any given Saturday. This one they get a little bit shorter week because they played on that Sunday the week before, 6 days between games, but that shouldn't make a big difference there. If Nichols forces a couple of turnovers, like 4 or 5 turnovers against LSU, and they play sloppy the ball, they might have a chance for an upset. But um, that's extreme. That's extreme scenario
One
right
or
there.
two turnovers, LSU still would probably demolish them.
Yeah. So the unit I want to make a big leap this year is LSU's defense. Now I do think LSU's offense is going to retract a little bit. I don't think it's going to be as dynamic without Jaden Daniels there because Nussmeier and Daniels are two different guys, and he's a year one starter. He's going to be a little bit better with playing time compared to they get better. So hopefully, Nussmeier does get better as the season progresses, but I do think they're going to tape off a little bit. I don't think they're going to be as dynamic and
Do you think it'll be a huge drop off, or is that not?
I don't think it's juicy. I don't think it's gonna be a huge drop off though. I think they'll be dropped a little bit. I don't think it's gonna be
Well,
like
the
this.
rushing yards will definitely drop down though, because
Uh,
obviously you don't have Jaden Daniels
yeah,
rushing
like
yards
that's what I'm
too.
talking about. Not having that rushing ability. You got Jay Daniels being a dual threat quarterback, and got a great running ability, great passing ability. Like that's you just got to be compensated somewhere else, and they probably won't be able to compensate to get to that level. Like Nussmeier's not the scrambler Jay Daniels is. They're two different quarterbacks, obviously. But yeah, I think LSU beats USC. I think they go through Nichols and they win that one here. The schedule really sets up really well for LSU, to be honest with everybody here, because the next game they got there is South Carolina on the road. Now this is an early game, 11 a.m. Not the best game you want to wake up to and try to play here. 11 a.m. games suck. What you think, Juice? You think LSU goes into Columbia, South Carolina, able to knock off the Gamecocks?
Yeah, I think they're going to Williams-Brice. I think, South Carolina's obviously got their issues. Shane Beamer, he's really had a rough time getting going. I think his best year was 8-4, and that was like the year before last. They've kind of everybody thought they would get better. Well, they took another step back last year. I think they went like 5-7 or 6. So I think it. Like you say, you never underestimate anybody, obviously, and especially in the SEC. But I do think LSU does come out with a win against South Carolina.
Yeah, I think that's one that you can look at and be like, okay, that could be a game that could trip up anybody. That's kind of the thing. That's very popular to do here, but I do think that is something that that we can look at here and be, you got to be concerned about it a little bit here. Obviously, when you go into any environment, road games are tough to win. Like if you look at data from anywhere, always be improving on the road. It's always tough to win on the road, no matter where you go. It's just tougher to deal with anybody when you're on the road here. So, it's gonna be a tough one for LSU. Like always, like you're gonna go on the road. I think LSU does pull it off. South Carolina has lost Spencer Rattler. They got a different starting quarterback over there. I think they win this one. I think LSU's defense will be better than they were last year. I don't know if they're going to be. I think they'll be better than they were in 2023. I don't think they're going to be because you just have to get better at some point. Even if they go back to 22 level, if they that would be a huge win for Brian Kelly and them. But
I think Blake Baker's gonna do a great job.
yeah, I think I think Baker's going to do good. I just don't see them having that repeat of that year. Like, get back to some old school LSU defense is what they really need. But we'll see. I got them 3-0. Juicy, you got them 3-0. This one I'm perplexed about. This is a flex game. Kickoff could be between 2:30 or 7 o'clock at night. You got to hope for a Saturday night in Death Valley. LSU versus UCLA. That would be a late game for UCLA fans because they're coming in from the West Coast, and that's going to be, ooh man, that's like a 2-hour difference to them. I think 2 or 3 hour there, so they might not be watching that game till 5 or something at 7.
Mm-hmm.
So, or it could be an early game, 12:30. I don't watch that late game, but LSU versus UCLA. I think this one's interesting. Big Ten opponent. That feels weird to say that. I don't like it at all. I don't like all these West Coast teams getting the Big Ten.
I know. I don't like that. I'm still not used to that yet. My brain can't handle.
That's just it was a money move. I get it. I understand, but I do think it is a little bit selfish of these programs to do that because it was obviously a money grab. They didn't think about the student athletes when they did that. Like, as far as like the baseball teams for sure and softball teams, because you got midweek games and weekend series and stuff. And I'll keep bringing that up because that is something that it sucks for the athletes, but they are getting paid to do it. So if they're having NIL deals, so I do feel bad for them, and then I don't feel bad for them because they kind of created the monster. So LSU versus UCLA. I got LSU beating UCLA. I think LSU up front. LSU's got one of the best offensive lines in the country. I think they'll assert their dominance over UCLA, and I think they'll win. What you thinking, Juicy?
Thinking the same thing. They'll win it in the trenches. I think it might be fun in the beginning. I mean, they got that West Coast style offense, but in the end, and then that being at Tiger Stadium also gives the extra advantage. So I'm going to give it to the Tigers.
So, next game on the list here, LSU versus South Alabama. So, as we go through all this here, I got LSU at 4-0 so far. So, with South Alabama here, they're going to be going to Baton Rouge here, a Sun Belt opponent here. South Alabama, they should have last year they had a pretty good team. They just didn't seem like they executed very well. And whenever I watched them in the Sun Belt play and stuff, they just seemed like they kind of just were not really, especially when they played the Cajuns. I'll bring up the Cajuns again here because we do cover them as well. They turnover after turnover. They just did not seem to execute very well whenever they played the Cajuns and when they played other opponents. South Alabama is always one of those teams in the Sun Belt where everybody's like, they could be great. They could be like close to winning a Sun Belt championship, but they always come short. I'm going to keep referring to South Alabama as the Dallas Cowboys of the Sun Belt Conference because that's just what they are. They'll get really close to the end, but they all like great regular season and they'll just fall apart at some point. But they never got to the postseason really too much, except for bowl, the playoff, if you want to call that, the bowl games or the consolation prize. But I got LSU winning this one. What you think, Juicy?
Oh, you said it all, man. I got LSU 5-0 right here.
5-0.
I think Fishbowl's going to try to go to that game, too.
Yeah, we're going to try. We're going to see our schedule line up and see.
It's First Responders Day, so I want to try to go. It's First Responders Appreciation Day.
Then they're going to celebrate 100 years of Tiger Stadium. Night game is a kickoff between 5 and 7 p.m. October 12th, Ole Miss is going to be going to Death Valley. We all know how that game went last year, Juicy. LSU should have won the game last year because there was no defense to be found on either side of the ball in that game last year.
It was wild, I know.
I think they scored what? Each scored like over 40 points, I think.
something like that, or
It
50.
was
But
a
it was
very
it
high
was
scoring game. It was like almost like 90 points or something like that. It was ridiculous. I'm thinking that this is one of the cases there that you got to look at it and be like, okay, cool. Lane Kiffin's going to bring a very good playbook. He's always got some tricks up his sleeve. Likes to spread the field. Same thing with Brian Kelly. They're going to bring that spread offense, in Baton Rouge, and they're going to throw at LSU. I'm kind of curious to see how how the play calling is with Nussmeier compared to Jane Daniels. You probably won't have as many more designed runs for him because of just the pocket presence of Nussmeier. But you do have a really good offensive line, so I'm expecting the running back core of LSU to have a bigger season to make up for that. So, I think LSU wins in the trenches in this one. I think offensively and defensively. I think they'll be able to put pressure on Ole Miss, uh, on the quarterback, and be able to generate some sacks, maybe some coverage sacks in the second. LSU's secondary is still a concern for me, though. They seem like they don't have it all together still back there. They do have guys they brought in still. What do you think, Juicy?
I think I think it's going to be a little bit more defense than last year, and then of course, played in Tiger Stadium, so that's always a help. And on top of that, I think Blake Baker's gonna in this game, I think Harold Perkins is going to be a difference really in all these games, but in this game too compared to last year, because I think Blake Baker will let him be more in his natural position, like he was when he was the linebacker coach in 22.
But
So
I
I
will
think
say this though.
they'll be
I
able
will
to
say this.
generate pressure with him for sure.
I will say this about. I think Baker's going to put him in better positioning than Matt House did. There were some guys that was like sometimes there was 12 yards off the ball, and they would run slants and stuff, and you're picking up 15 yards every single time you run a slant right there because they got guys just wide open, just cutting the middle linebackers or too spread out or whatever, and Matt House just got out coached in a lot of games, and that was really unfortunate to see. You think someone coming from the NFL would actually know this kind of stuff, but look, I'm not gonna hate on him too much here. I just think he didn't call great games. I don't think he was really good at getting those guys in the right spot. Even though you didn't you had some injuries there and stuff, it just didn't make sense to me. Some plays that he called, but I think LSU gets revenge on Ole Miss from last year. Give me the win against Ole Miss here. Like I said, this schedule is very favorable because look, you get Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Alabama. Now, LSU's worst stretch, if you're gonna ask it, is probably the first 4 games. USC, Nicholls, South Carolina, and UCLA. Arkansas, Texas A&M, Alabama. Now, Arkansas is always one of those teams that LSU was sleepwalking last time they went up there in 2022, and they got lucky to come away with a win because I thought they were going to lose that game. I've been watching the game. I'm like, man, LSU deserves to lose it because they were playing flat out terrible, but they managed to squeak it out there.
It was Harold Perkins actually who was the reason why they won the game.
Yeah, Harold Perkins was definitely the guy that won them that game. Straight up, that was a defensive win. That one, if I ever did see one. Jane Daniels didn't play good. They struggled with that when they went up there. It looks like it's gonna be a night game. Kickoff between 5 and 7 p.m. So, what you thinking, Juicy?
I'm thinking LSU will have better luck against them this go around in Fayetteville. I do think Arkansas is going to at least hang in there for a while, just given the fact that Arkansas always plays them tough. And also Sam Pittman's probably going to pull some tricks because I know he's on the hot seat this year, so I know that's a factor in as well. But I still think LSU will pull this one out and come out.
I think when I look at this schedule here, it looks so for us, looking at it as fans, we're just this looks like a really easy schedule and one for you to really take advantage of and get a lot of wins on, right? You think you're going to have a 10 or 11 win season. But I do think, looking at this schedule here, I think LSU is going to lose a game somewhere. in this schedule that no one's expecting them to lose. It could very well be, it could very well be this Arkansas game. I think it's gonna be. Uh, it could very well be the Texas A&M game. I do think they're gonna lose one that we shouldn't lose. I'm tempted to say Arkansas. Because I look at Billy Napier and I look at Sam Pittman. They're both got their backs against the wall. They're both on the hot seat. Because if they have bad years, they're gone. And they might be gone, but they might just pull off a win somewhere that no one's expecting it. It is college football, and that even though they got NIL and transfer portal, you still got the craziness about it here. One player could change your whole entire program. I'm just wondering about this. Give me Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to upset LSU. I think there's one game on this schedule that they're going to upset somewhere. There's going to be an upset somewhere that we're just not expecting it. It might be Arkansas.
I wouldn't pick Arkansas. I wasn't going to pick Arkansas. That's kind of bold, but hey, you never know. You're right.
Dude,
you might be. Hey,
look, I can say outlandish stuff on the preseason because of the fact that it's just preseason. Because there's somebody ranked in that top 10 that should not be there. Every single year, there's a top 10 team that should
you're
not
right
be
about
there.
that.
So, but yeah, you play better when your back's against the wall. These guys, look, when they look at the transfer portal, not only NIL and money they're looking at here with the Power 5 and G5 or whatever, they're also looking at, they're not committing to programs anymore. They're not committing to schools. They're committing, they're committing to coaches. So that is probably more of a prevalent thing. That's why you see so many people leave, after Jimbo Fisher got fired at Texas A&M. After Nick Saban left, a lot of Alabama players left. After Ed Orgeron left, a lot of LSU players left. So look, that's a trend that you can look at and see. So look, I think 6-1. Look, I might be completely wrong about the Arkansas game. They might beat them 50-3. But I do think that a team is going to upset LSU that we're not least expecting it here because the schedule sets up way too perfectly, and it's just LSU got a really good draw this year with schedule. You cannot argue that one at all.
It's about time.
Yeah. LSU at Texas A&M. Texas A&M lost a lot. They got a lot in transfer portal. I don't think they're going to be that good this year, Texas A&M. Give me LSU. Who you got, Juicy?
Yeah, for the same reasons, I'll take LSU.
All right, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we have 4 games left. I got LSU at 71. You got them undefeated going into Alabama, Juicy. How you think DeBoer is going to do at Alabama, Juicy?
Well, I mean, he's definitely got a lot left to work with. I mean, he's definitely has something to build off of from Nick Saban. I know a lot of players left and coaches left. I mean, I want to say he'll you never want to say he's going to be another Nick Saban or like a coach because Nick Saban's obviously hard to replace. He's like the greatest college coach of all time. Like, there's never going to be another Nick Saban, but I mean, I definitely think with the success he had at Washington, he can win. I mean, if he can average, I mean, obviously Alabama fans probably ain't going to like it because they have a lot to compare to being spoiled by Nick Saban. But, I mean, I think 8 to 9 wins is what he's probably going to get, honestly.
Nick Saban did not leave that cupboard bare in Alabama. Yeah, they still got a lot of talent on that team. And DeBoer's been one of the guys that has won everywhere he's went. He's a very successful head coach. Look what he did with Washington last year. In the college football playoff. they did a great job up there. I know they're missing him, but LSU and Alabama, this one, it's tough because I'm wondering how much LSU's defense is actually going to come up there. Uh, you know, Brian Kelly's 1-1 against Alabama being at LSU. Last time they won in Baton Rouge, a game that Alabama was favored to win. This one's kind of tough. Who you pick to win, Juicy?
Well, I would if it was a same old scenario with Nick Saban, I would probably still tilt towards Alabama. But being it's also in Tiger Stadium and Alabama's got a first time head coach coming to Tiger Stadium, and a lot of these players are uh, pretty new for them, not being a lot of them left. For the same reasons kind of we quoted with A&M. I'm gonna go with LSU this time on this go around.
Yeah, it's a flex in between 2:30 and 7 o'clock. This is interesting because you just got to wonder how Bears are covered in Alabama. Like, did they really drop off? Or they will probably have some aggression. Not
Ask me the week before the game, and I'll have a better.
look,
I'll
yeah,
make a
like
better
obviously
decision.
these games are our picks might change based on how the season's going. Because we're gonna go through these every single week. This is kind of just a prognosis of what we got here. It's like predicting the future is hard. I mean, but give me the home team because I think the crowd's gonna give LSU a big advantage in this one. Nighttime. Well, if it's a nighttime game, I don't know. 2:30 to 7 o'clock kickoff. So yeah, so far I got LSU beating Alabama, and that'll be their one loss so far. So they got Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. In the swamp at Gainesville, I think LSU beats Florida. I think Billy is not going to make it through this year because this schedule is brutal for Florida this year. What you think, Juicy?
I agree, and you don't have to worry about Vandy. I'm just gonna go ahead and say they're gonna win that one too.
Oh yeah, because look, I said this on the Raging Cane season preview. If Desimo goes 6-7 again, it's like you cannot open with a coach that's opened up 6-7 a brand new stadium that you're renovating and putting a new grandstand in and stuff. So you're gonna have if Napier's available, he's the most successful coach in UL football history. He's gonna probably be a free agent this year. So yeah, basically just hire him back. It worked once before. Why not try it again, right?
Why not?
LSU versus Vanderbilt. I think LSU will win that game at 5 to 7 o'clock kickoff. It might be pretty cold, November 23rd. Sun getting colder, which I don't mind. It'd be kind of cool.
I'm gonna try to go to that one too.
I think LSU beats Vanderbilt though. You got LSU beat Vanderbilt too, Juicy?
Oh yeah,
You got to beat Florida. I didn't hear you.
yeah. Florida and Vandy for the same reasons. They both just have a lot turmoil.
LSU versus Oklahoma. This is a game that I'm actually interested in seeing because it's kind of odd. This is their first time playing in Tiger Stadium, Oklahoma. That was a interesting fun fact I did not know before the season started. Because you would think LSU played Oklahoma and most recently in the college football playoff, and Justin Jefferson scored 4 touchdowns on them. I just keep remembering him doing he just kind of got the four fingers going right there. So give me LSU win that one. LSU that Alabama game could be flipped either way. Oklahoma could very well beat LSU, but I don't think they got enough this year. Oklahoma beating LSU. I got LSU beating them. What you thinking, Juicy?
I came all this way, and I actually just have a feeling that LSU is gonna choke this last one out here somehow, and they're gonna drop Oklahoma on the last game of the year.
Yeah, the last game of the schedule is that Oklahoma game. You look at it right here.
I think I was kind of waiting for that one. I think that's the one they're going to unexpectedly kind of lose.
I could see it happen. I mean, it's very much so. There's no divisions in the SEC this year, so that might pay some significance there because every loss in SEC is going to really pile up on you this year with the way the format is. Yeah, so it looks like I have LSU with one loss somewhere. It could worst case scenario. I think LSU should have only 2 losses. I would say
I agree.
Alabama,
I don't see
and I
how
think they're
I
going
don't
to do.
see anywhere else on the schedule where you can get more than 2 losses. The only other game would be maybe the Alabama game. I don't see how anywhere else
So
where you can get a loss from.
I would worst case scenario. I'm talking like the bottom falls out for LSU. I would say that like a disaster. Like if there was a disaster scenario for LSU football this year, I think they would lose to USC, you lose to UCLA, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma. That's worst case scenario. I think 5 losses is your worst that you could possibly do. What you thinking?
I was gonna say 4. I think is the floor for them.
Which is fair. I think 7-5 would be your worst, but then Brian Kelly would get a lot of heat though. Boy, would he get a lot of heat for that.
I just don't see it. There's nowhere other than the Alabama law, other than maybe Alabama. I don't see it where anywhere else where you get those 2. I mean, just looking at it like realistically. I mean, obviously things happen, but just looking at it from this point of view, I don't see it right now where there's any more than 2 losses at most.
Obviously, best case scenario, and it's a very likely one. I think more likely than the 5 losses I would throw out for worst case scenario would be an undefeated season. I could very well see an undefeated season with the schedule. It's going to depend on how much that defense jumps up. I think the defense is the biggest question mark coming into this year as a whole unit. If you look at both sides of the ball, if they can elevate their play enough, they might be able to like some of the. I think offensive production will drop off for LSU a little bit. I don't like Kyron Lacey when you're outside your wide receiver, Garrett Nussmeyer, but you got a really good offensive line. And I always say this here: there's not going to be a big drop off. I think there'll be a little bit here because you got guys coming into new roles and stuff. They're going to have to do their kind of thing, but they got a very good veteran offensive line on a award watch list for offensive line too. So. Look, if you're on a award watch list for your offensive line, you're doing pretty good because that is the basis of your team. I don't care how
Will
you play.
Campbell and Emory Jones are the 2 tackles on each side.
Yeah. So that is something we're gonna have to see here. So SEC championship game. Does LSU make the SEC championship game, Juicy, you think?
Any more than 1 loss? I don't think so. If they get more than 1 loss. If they get 1 loss, there's a chance.
So, based on how I have it, best case scenario, I think they will lose. Like, I think they're going to finish 10-2 somewhere. That's what I honestly think.
We all. I mean, obviously, I always say best case scenarios undefeated, of course, but I think 1 to 2 losses is what it's going to be as of right now.
It's so hard to go undefeated. Then you got the college football playoff in the first round, which will be on campus. That's another thing here. They won't be playing at like a bowl game. They'll be playing somewhere.
The first round's on campus, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be like if LSU makes the college football playoff.
I guess the highest seed gets the campus.
Wait, what'd you see?
I guess the highest seed in that first round game gets the campus.
Yeah, so how it works out is you got your top 4 seeds, and that will be at the bowl sites, okay? That'll be like your Peach Bowl and Sugar Bowls, okay? And then
So Tiger Stadium
the Peach Trojan and Sugar Bowl. Then you got the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl for your semis, okay? I was wondering how they played it out this year. Then they got Atlanta, Georgia, Mercedes-Benz being the national championship. So
Tiger Stadium could host the playoff.
The higher seeds will host like 5-12, 6-11, 7-10, and 8-9. The higher seeds will host those games there. So you obviously want to.
So you obviously want to be the home field advantage for that first round.
Yeah, at least one game, at least a 5 through 8 for sure. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. how all that plays out with this episode here. Not this episode, with how this season goes here. But yeah, like it's been a cool one to see how this goes out
I'm
here. Any
glad. I'm glad we got 12 teams now, though. I am happy that it's be a little bit different setup now.
Yeah, it's. I would love 16 teams because
I think eventually it will get to
I think
16.
this time everybody play, and it should be fine. I think it'll be good here, but we'll see what happens here. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. Anything you want to say just before we go up there here?
I think I'm good.
All right, thank y'all for tuning in here to the Fishbowl Radio. We hope you have a great, wonderful night, and we'll see you here next time here, Fishbowl Radio. Have a good night, Fishbowl Nation.
Good night.